Thank you, Remy. A very good morning to everyone. So my name is Jayant Sangwan, and I will be talking about the research roadmap for the use of big data in the transport sector that we've been working on within the framework of the LeMO project. Now, given the time limitation, I will not go into the details of the methodology used for the development of the research roadmap. Rather, I would like to focus on the questions that were considered within the framework of the research roadmap, as well as the major findings that resulted from our efforts to answer these questions. As far as the questions are concerned, we looked at four main questions within the framework of the roadmap. And firstly, we considered how big data research is helping or can help the transport domain, how big data research features in relation to transport in different countries, what are the main big data related challenges that need to be addressed through research, and what could be the possible research interventions to help the transport sector as well as to overcome the challenges in the big data domain. Now, to answer the first question, that is how big data is helping or can help the transport domain, we took three main steps. As a first step, we looked at the Strategic Transport Research and Innovation Agenda, or STRIA roadmaps, to identify that in which particular areas does big data research feature prominently. We looked at the STRIA roadmaps essentially because they provide a good overview of the EU strategy to benefit from the digital transformation and innovation that we are seeing these days, especially in the transport sector. We found out that 5 out of the 7 STRIA roadmaps, in fact, refer to big data research, and big data research appears in these roadmaps as a priority and is discussed in some form or the other. Now, I will not list the names of the different roadmaps. You can see it directly from my slide. But I will do mention that we did see some recurring themes which were mentioned in more than one roadmap. And these relate to, for example, data sharing, the collection of data, facilitating the exchange of data, interoperability, or creating connected environments or hubs where data could be shared. These aspects were discussed and prioritized somehow in more than one STRIA roadmaps. As a second step to answer the first question, we also conducted a literature review to look at different papers and studies that are looking into the use of big data in the transport sector. For some reason, I'm not able to change my slide. Okay, yes, it works. So we, as I was mentioning, that we tried to look at the different studies that have been conducted around the use of big data in the transport sector. And our literature review revealed that in majority of the papers that are looking into the use of big data in transportation, there is a focus on travel behavior and travel pattern analysis with the aim of improving decision making and transport planning. And we also found that some of the papers were also focusing on topics such as performance assessment and service improvement through the use of big data. As a third step, also to answer the first question, we tried to also rely on a survey that has been conducted within the framework of Project GECKO, which is another project that has been funded by the EU within the framework of the Horizon 2020 research program, and it is running in parallel to LeMO. And in the survey conducted, we asked different mobility service companies or new mobility service providers as to how they are using big data to improve their to apply big data research and technologies in their companies. And we found that many of these companies are in fact using big data research and big data technologies and applying them for the purposes of improving of course, their services and customer experience. But some of the companies are also using them for the purposes of reducing pollution and building resilience to deal with any unexpected events. Then the second question that we looked at within the framework of the research roadmap was how big data research features in relation to transport in different countries and the different programs, strategies, and initiatives in different countries. And for this purpose, we looked at some of the major programs or initiatives or strategies that are being adopted by the EU as well as other countries, both within and outside of the EU. And we try to see if we can draw some sense out of the challenges that are mentioned in relation to transport in these particular programs or strategies or initiatives. Our study revealed that challenges which relate to dimensions such as data analysis or data management or the lack of infrastructure and system find a greater number of reference in different countries, while challenges across aspects such as data visualization or standardization found a lesser number of references across different countries. Then as a third question, we tried to look at what are the main big data related challenges that need to be addressed through research. And for this purpose, we tried to identify the big data challenges through the work that has already been done within the framework of the LeMO project, as was being mentioned earlier by Rajendra in deliverables 4.1 and 4.2. But in addition, we also try to draw upon the knowledge that has been built through other projects that have been funded within the Horizon 2020 research program, such as the Big Data Policy Canvas project or the BIKE project, also the NOSS and the Transforming Transport project that was referred to by Rajendra. And out of this analysis, we try to understand how the big data challenges, which are the main big data challenges that emerge and that can be resolved through further research in different areas. And we've tried to sort of map these different challenges across 8 different dimensions. And we have in these 8 dimensions areas related to the technical side, such as the data management, data processing, data analysis, and data visualization. But also there are challenges that emerged across the non-technical areas. And these relate to essentially lack of skilled experts in the big data domain, as well as problems relating to discrimination that emerge because data sets for a certain set of populations are not considered. So these challenges have been mapped and presented also in the roadmap across the different 8 dimensions that I identify in my slide. Then, as a last question, we also tried to develop some recommendations, some interventions that could be applied in order to address not only the challenges, but also to improve different aspects related to transport within Europe. And for this purpose, we proposed in the research roadmap around 31 different research interventions, which have again, for the ease of the reader, been categorized or been displayed across the 8 different data dimensions that I mentioned in my previous slide. And we also tried to create a certain timeline in order for the implementation of these research interventions. And this was done essentially by correlating the implementation of these research interventions with the recently issued European data strategy and see when would be the appropriate time line to apply the different research interventions. Now, as a next step to sort of further enrich and further develop and sort of consolidate the research roadmap, we intend to take 2 further steps. The first one would be the prioritization of these 31 different research interventions that we've identified in the current exercise. And this would be done also through the responses that we've been collecting for a survey that has been conducted within the framework of this particular task that will be discussed in detail by my colleague from Panthea in his next presentation. And then as a last step, we would further validate the findings or the outcomes that we've identified through a consultation that will be held with a group of experts that has been there with the LeMO project from its inception. And this group of experts consists of experts coming from both the transport domain as well as the big data domain, and they will look at our findings and try to sort of validate them or give us useful comments to enrich them and reshape them before they can be presented to the public at large and for the use of the different target audience for the research roadmap. So with this, I think I will conclude my presentation. I hope I've not been beyond the time limit that was prescribed.